advance and be recognized, everyone, and welcome to the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations space for all things military and historical wargaming. I am your host, Oriskany Jim, and today we're taking a journey a little deeper than usual into the history of the United States Marine Corps. The engagement on today's table is the Battle of Derna, part of the First Barbary Pirates War of 1801 to 1805. The system we're using is Napoleon Rules by Pete Panzeri, who's also putting the game on for us at the South Florida Miniatures Gaming Club. This game is also wrapping up our commemorative series for the Marine Corps' 250th birthday, which of course was founded on November 10th, 1775. Derna stands on the north coast of what is today Libya, where the Marine Corps would fight one of its first overseas expeditionary actions. The event is also commemorated in the opening line of the Marines' hymn, which of course goes from the Halls of Montezuma in Mexico to the Shores of Tripoli. They're talking about the Barbary Coast. For centuries, the loosely organized Barbary Corsairs, based out of a series of Ottoman provinces and the Sultanate of Morocco, had preyed on everybody's shipping all through the Mediterranean Sea. Various European powers could afford to pay the protection money for the Barbary pirates to leave their shipping alone, but when the United States broke away from Great Britain at the end of the American Revolution, they were no longer under the protection of the British trade empire, and very quickly American shipping came under attack as well. American crews were seized, enslaved, and ransomed, and the American government was forced to pay exorbitant tributes for the Barbary pirates to leave their shipping unmolested. At one point, these tributes totaled 20% of the new nation's total federal budget. President Thomas Jefferson decided, this wasn't going to work, and a series of naval skirmishes quickly followed, beginning with a startling American victory near the island of Malta won by the schooner USS Enterprise. Other naval skirmishes quickly followed, along with some raids against Barbary harbors. In 1805, the Americans saw a chance to take the fight to the enemy on a new level. The Barbary state of Tripoli, notice this isn't just the modern city of Tripoli, but the much larger region of Tripoli, was hotly contested by two feuding brothers, Yusuf and Hamet Karamanli. American Army officer William Eaton, with a detachment of 7 Marines under Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon, formed an alliance with Hamet. Together, they recruited a force of Greek mercenaries, joined with Hamet's Ottomans in Alexandria, and then marched hundreds of miles to the west to the Tripolitan city of Derna. In April 1805, Eaton sent a message to the governor of Derna, Mustafa Bey, asking, hey, can we pass through, get safe passage, and maybe pick up some extra supplies? Bey's reply was, my head or yours. Pro tip, never say that to the Marines. The Americans and their mercenary allies, along with a squadron of warships of the United States Navy, quickly attacked the city of Derna, and despite a fiery defense, American Marines were soon raising the flag over foreign soil for what I'm pretty sure was the first time, an event that, once again, is still commemorated in the Marines' hymn to this day. Pete's game commemorating this event is a little bit of an expansion on the history, I'm not going to lie. He's amalgamating the Battle of Derna with some other events of the Barbary Pirates Wars. First of all, we've got John, who is commanding a somewhat expanded squadron of U.S. Navy warships. I've got a Marine landing detachment that, again, is kind of an addition to the historical force that was actually present. And then we have Mark Ritchie, who is commanding the actual historical force under Eaton, O'Bannon, and of course all of those Ottoman allies and Greek mercenaries. Meanwhile, Pete himself and our good friend Ron are playing the forces of Mustafa Bey, defending the fortress of Derna. So let's head over to the footage and let's see how Pete's recreation of the Battle of Derna unfolds. So here is our table for today. The map, I think, was something like 8 feet by 6 feet. I actually didn't get exact measurements. And again, for all of our historical purists out there, this is a bit of an amalgamation not only of the famous assault on Derna, but several other events that took place during the Barbary Pirates as well. Again, this is a convention game, sort of designed for maximum player participation, so there will be some liberties taken here with the history. Like, for instance, here we have John getting his somewhat expanded fleet of American warships in position. Historically, there were only 3 ships here. Here we have 6, And there will actually be a small naval engagement as we take on 2 Barbary Xebecs in preparation to actually putting ashore some of our Marine and Navy Party landing troops. Meanwhile, here we have Mark, who is going to command the actual historical force that was there, commanded by William Eden and Presley O'Bannon. They have, of course, just completed their march from Alexandria and will be approaching from the east. Meanwhile, like I said, we have a little bit of a naval battle in progress here, where John is getting his force of naval frigates and schooners ready to engage these 2 enemy warships defending Derna Harbor. Okay, so how this works is each one of these ships is going to roll a d6 for initiative. You see that guy right there maxed out with a 6. We have a 5, we have a 2, didn't do so well. And then the ships will take their actions in descending order of their initiative score for this turn. Okay, so clearly this ship is going to get to move first because he rolled the best on initiative. You see the 6 there. And we also have a dice that marks the direction of the wind. That's going to affect movement. So the wind is with us at the moment. John is going to fire his opening broadside off of that first frigate, and he only gets 1 6. Only 6s count, I should note. And the number of dice is going to be determined by the firepower of the ship, the range to the target, and whether or not you have managed to bring your broadsides to bear, or whether or not you're only firing with, your chaser guns off of the bow or stern. There is then a reaction roll rolled for the enemy ship. So he has not struck his colors, but he did score 1 hit of damage from that 6 that we saw earlier, and that's going to be it for that action. Notice that Pete is knocking his initiative down to a 4. He spent 1 action to move and 1 action to fire. So that's going to take his initiative score for the moment from a 6 down to a 4. Now John is firing his second ship, and this time scores nothing, not a single 6. So apparently that second frigate is firing Nerf balls out of its cannon. Needless to say, that is the second frigate you see at the other end of the enemy force. We sort of have their 2 ships bracketed between broadsides. Now Pete, who is of course playing the enemy, is going to take some counterfire. He scores some hits there, which is not great news for these ships because they are also carrying all my Marines. Not so happy about that. Now John is going to move his 3rd ship, and you see where he's going to drive straight through the middle of the enemy formation, Nelson style, at Trafalgar. The thing here is that John is going to get to fire both of his broadsides, because clearly that 3rd ship has enemy targets to bear off of either beam. So he's rolling all of his dice twice. Again, he's looking for 6s. There's a pretty good roll. So that is going to be some additional hits on the 1st ship, and of course he's already scored damage on the 2nd ship off of his port side. Very good there. And we're going to continue this process where we work our way down through the initiative dice. We're now down to the 3s, so this Ottoman land-based battery is going to get a crack on us. Not so happy about that. I'm going to go ahead and knock that dice down to a 2 as he takes his actions, and does fortunately miss us. Alright, so again, John is just going to continue to maneuver and fire his ships. It's a little risky because these ships, while engaged in combat, are also carrying pretty much my entire fictional Marine landing force. Good news though, we just sank that first Z back there. You see the white puff of smoke on them. So we're halfway there as far as defeating the Ottoman naval forces facing us. And we still have some more ships to maneuver to gun position. So as you can see by these numbers tracked on the white dice, we're still taking hits, not so much from enemy warships, but from all these shore batteries that Ron has fortified up on these castle walls. But me oh my, what has happened here? It looks like when Ron took his next salvo of fire here at our American frigates, not only did he miss, but with a catastrophic failure, his cannonball sailed straight over our frigates, hit his own damaged Xebec Corsair ship here, and he has, long story short, take your first shot, sank his own ship. Thank you very much, Ron. We really appreciate the assist there. And as you can see, that effectively ends the naval battle in the harbor. We are now cleared to maneuver our ships and start putting ashore our Marine landing force. Then, John continues his good luck with his damage control dice. 2 of his frigates had taken damage, he rolled 2d6s, and he got boxcars. Both of our damaged ships, they both rolled a 6. So you'll see that all of those white dice next to the American ships, all of those damage trackers, are completely gone. Those American ships they're basically cherry at this point. Which is not a moment too soon, because then some more Ottoman batteries open fire, and suddenly this frigate is down 4 levels. He took some fire from this sort of a peninsula battery and this other shore battery that we were dealing with before. We're kind of trying to affect the naval landing in a bit of a crossfire here. It's not ideal, but we have to land on this beach because here is where Mark's historical force is going to be coming in, and we have to be close enough where we can quickly link together. And now the big problem is more of a traffic control problem. Those wrecked enemy ships are still there burning as they sink. We can't just sort of phase through them, and John has to sort of maneuver to put the Marines ashore. So it took him it took him the rest of the turn and into turn 2, but he was finally able to sort of get most of our ships to where he could actually put them ashore. And now he's putting another broadside point blank into this ground battery, and he has eliminated it. I'm telling you what, man, John's dice are on fire, and as the Marine commander, I'm not complaining because I still need to get my troops ashore. So, okay, again, this force is kind of fictional. We didn't really have a landing force like this at the historical Battle of Derna. But you do see my Marines, and you do see John's naval landing party there. He has 12 stands, I have 8 stands, because my other 2 stands take the form of these 2 artillery batteries here. So that's all of our forces now deployed. You'll notice I put my artillery on that elevated position where the Ottoman battery used to be. This way I can fire over the heads of friendly troops as they advance toward enemy positions further inland here on this soon-to-be hotly contested landing beach. Alright, and again, here we are with Mark's force, which is the actual historical force. We've got Eaton there, and we're also going to have a figure for Lieutenant O'Bannon. He was the Marine commander who actually led the contingent of Marines that was sort of in charge of this force of Ottoman allies and especially Greek mercenaries that had banded together and marched all the way from Alexandria. It's like 450 miles to get all the way here to Derna. And there is a treachery segment in this game as well. Just like the last time we had a big game in Libya when we did the anniversary recreation of the 13 hours in Benghazi 2012 incident. Here, a lot of the battle comes down to who you can buy and who you can sort of convert to your side. So there are different denominations specified by these poker checks. I think the blues are 1,000. The reds are 500 and the whites are 100, something like that. And what we're trying to do is sort of bribe the commanders of these different contingents or these different elements of the enemy force into either leaving the battle or possibly even joining our side, switching sides in the middle of the engagement. And that's going to depend on the general troop quality, the loyalty level of the historical commanders who are in charge, how much we bribe them, and this is where we're trying to, budget our coin effectively here, and then a little bit of good old-fashioned die roll to see how it turns out. So here goes John, throwing his first dice, and he fails miserably. So yeah, long story short, take your second shot. That first bribe didn't fly at all. Apparently that commander was insulted by the poverty of our offering. So we've made all of our other bribes and our other rolls. It was a bit of a mixed result. The one really good piece of news was this Libyan light infantry that was occupying all these frontal buildings. We bribed the hell out of those guys. They were pretty crappy light infantry to begin with, and their commander wasn't terribly loyal. They have totally switched sides and are now under Mark's command. So Mark has redeployed them over here to the west against the possible arrival of enemy reinforcements that could be arriving from the west at a future turn. Meanwhile, my Marines are ashore. Again, this is the fictional force, air quotes, and I'm moving them forward. I started off with a frontage of 3 stands. I'm sort of expanding it a little bit. Notice how I am staggering my commanders back a little bit so that they are always in command diameter radius, and I can keep those batteries active to provide some covering fire. Meanwhile, John's naval squadron is set up in such a way where, again, he'll be able to fire his starboard batteries against those positions further to the north there, further out toward the Mediterranean Sea, and his port batteries will be able to provide direct fire towards the castle. Those front 2 ships are going to be putting fire into those flanking batteries that you see over there to the west. Here's another interesting development. The German mercenary that had been hired by the Barbary pirates to help run their artillery batteries has decided to, let's say, terminate his contract early. Long story short, take your third shot, he has abandoned his position. And for the moment, Barbary artillery has fallen silent. Just for the moment, just till Ron gets a new commander over there and gets those guns operating again. Great news for me, because we're still way out of musket range. It's all a question of artillery, and enemy artillery is momentarily lifted. Meanwhile, John's naval squadron is still rolling really well. You see those 4-6s there. He is engaging with all of his portside batteries and trying to knock some of the artillery off the top of the Derna fortification here. So you see where he's got 2 guns knocked off. Great news there. Meanwhile, some morale failures are starting to ripple through the enemy force between the bribery segment and also some of the casualties they're starting to take. Elements of their force are starting to flee. Now it's time for John to fire his starboard batteries. So I gave him a little bit of advice here how to position his fleet. Once I saw that Pete's system was allowing you to fire both broadsides depending on your position, I was like, position your fleet where you can fire all your guns and silence these batteries behind us. So he's got 4 hits so far, there's 2 more, that's 6 total. That's going to be enough to pretty much eliminate all the guns out of this sort of a peninsula gun battery that we bypassed coming into the harbor and frankly has been threatening our rear ever since this game started. So a little bit of relief to have those guns silenced. We still have some batteries to worry about there to the west, so keep an eye on those. We've knocked out this battery, so my 2 gun batteries are there, and I am trying to engage these Barbary batteries here on the ramparts, so to speak, of the Derna fortress. But so far I'm not hitting the broadside of a barn. My troops are advancing well though. I'm now in skirmish order. You see my bases are a little spread out. I'm taking partial cover behind some of these buildings because I did take 1 pretty good shot of casualties. I lost 1 whole stand of figures, plus 1 of my officer stands took some hits. So I gotta be a little bit more careful. And here we are back with Mark's historical force. Again, realistically, historically, this was the only force that was really there. But again, it's all just part of the game. And here is where we have some troops now at the actual base of the wall, so awesome news there. Problem is, there are still some pirates there above us, there at the ramparts, and there's a little bit of a musket battle going on before they can get ladders and begin to scale that wall. Alright, so here is Mark trying to sweep those ramparts a little bit and maybe clear the way for some scaling ladders. He got a couple 6s there, so yep, looks like he has cleared at least a segment of the wall, and some of his troops have made a successful scaling check. And there you go, quick as you like. We now have some troops on the wall. We've now breached the fortress. We're halfway home. Alright, meanwhile, this fictional marine force still hasn't even reached the castle wall yet. What can I say? I had quite a bit of distance to cover. Open beach under massed artillery fire. I actually did it without taking too many casualties. I'm not too worried about that. I just feel like I'm a little bit behind schedule here. So the movement is 12 inches. I'm checking to make sure there's no movement penalty to go over the seawall. Turns out there isn't. And again, because I'm in skirmish order, I have to keep at least some space between my bases. There is my flag. Again, the objective is I have to get at least 1 flag piece to the top of one of these high points on the Derna wall, those 3 high spots you saw there. And I am also trying to be very careful about exactly how I stage. I say careful. What I'm really doing is being cheesy here. I'm trying to keep my artillery battery in command radius of my top commander here. The command radius is 12 inches. So if I'm careful about it, I can sort of squeeze it out there. Okay, so these guys are now going to go ahead and shoot once again. And for the 3rd time in a row, they hit absolutely nothing. So all that effort about command diameter didn't really help me out in the long run. And it looks like some of Mark's infantry have now taken that top rampart there. They've knocked off those Barbary gun crews, and they've cleared that position. Those 3 guns you see there have now fallen silent. Which is just in time, because now my, again, fictional marine force has now reached the base of the wall. Just in time for, hey, the top of that wall is now occupied by friendly troops anyway. I'm not going to complain. It's an easy day at the office. I would much rather, it's going to be tough enough to scale this wall, without, people throwing, all kinds of musket fire down at me as I'm making the climb. Alright, so here comes my artillery again, and holy hell, would you look at that, I finally scored some hits. Oh, I can't even believe I finally hit something. Then I roll 2 more dice to see if I kill any commanders. I roll double 6s again. So basically, if you roll a hit, you get to roll your hits again. If you get 6s on your hits, it's almost like exploding dice. Double 6s mean you hit a commander. And now it's time for me to start rolling to scale the wall, because we're on initiative 2 and it's the turn for that unit. Anything but a 6 is going to make it. So here are my standard infantry stands. Only one stand failed to make the climb up the wall. So good news there. One stand will have to remain behind. And now I'm going to roll for the only stand that matters, the flag stand. And of course I roll another 1 because the dice gods hate Risky Jim. They're just being mean now. I mean, the only actual unit that actually mattered is the one that failed. Alright, now my Marines are on top of the Derna fortification. There's a battle on the wall, and again, my dice kind of crap out on me, but that's okay. Mark's troops are right next to me. They're the historical guys who really fought this battle, so I don't mind. I do lose another stand though, but Mark's guys are the ones that are actually killing the enemy troops that are occupying the rest of this wall. It's a little disappointing from a game perspective because I'm doing so poorly, but historically, again, Mark's troops are the only ones that were actually there at the historical engagement. Okay, now let's see if I can finally get my Marine flag up the wall. And I barely make it with a 2. Meanwhile, Mark is also trying to get his historical flag up the wall. That will be Lieutenant O'Bannon. So both of our Marines have their flags on the wall at the same time. So there we have Mark's historical flag on the wall, my not-so-historical flag on one of the objective towers, and what also wins this game for us is one of John's naval artillery salvos scoring a hit and killing Mustafa Bey, the actual garrison commander. So between those 3 things all happening at once, that's going to deliver this game to the Americans. And here are some parting glamour shots to commemorate our game. I do hope you'll forgive some small inconsistencies like the actual architecture of the fortress, the wrong number of stars on the American flag for a battle of this era. Again, we're playing this game with the miniatures and the terrain that's available at the time. Pete's miniatures, by the way, are absolutely gorgeously, lavishly painted. I believe they're 28mm, they may be 25s. I'll have to check with them about that. And again, I do realize that this particular scenario did take some liberties with the actual historical event of the Battle of Derna, which honestly, if you were going to run this chapter and verse right out of the historical gospel, wouldn't make the best wargame. Meanwhile, Pete is trying to present a wargame here that is sort of convention style, where people just walking past your table can quickly jump in, hey, can I command some troops? Can I command some figures? Here are the rules you need for the scenario. It fits on a single sheet of paper, and you're off and running. So we set up and ran this whole game in, I believe, 3 hours at the most. Great fun, super light, super fast, very engaging. You are maneuvering troops in a dynamic fashion. You're really hitting hard with lots of dice. It really is a fun set of game mechanics. And I just hope that you guys have enjoyed watching this video as much as we did playing this game. And there we have it, folks. Once again, Pete's recreation of the Battle of Derna does take some liberties with the actual historical forces that were present, but this is a game that he takes around to various conventions, and it's designed for maximum player participation. It definitely captures the spirit of the Battle of Derna, and most importantly, was a whole lot of fun. And that's where we're going to leave it for now, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, please consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There is an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. Join our community, see what everybody's up to, and best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Risky Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode. Happy birthday, United States Marine Corps, and as always, Semper Fi.